Hello, Sven here. Do you also know the feeling when you have an LLM like ChatGPT or Claude write a text for you and the text is nothing like uh, how you would write it yourself? Or are you, like me, annoyed by those posts on the internet that start with something like in a dynamic business world? Then I have something for you today. I've built a text analyzer that lets you analyze text you've written yourself so that in the end you get a result you can include in your prompt for writing. And then the generated text is basically indistinguishable from your own in terms of style. And I do the whole thing in 3 steps, as you can already see here in the background. Specifically, a text is analyzed on 3 levels, so to speak, namely starting with the top level. At this level, the system looks at things like tone, target audience, coherence, general structure, and the overall stylistic impression. On the middle level, it's about sentence structures, paragraphs, rhetorical devices, and the way the content is connected, which you also have in your texts. And finally, on the detail level, it's about word choice, grammar, punctuation, technical terms, stylistic devices, and much more. And these 3 steps also help in this case, when I do this with ChatGPT, to help the system focus better and especially to build each subsequent step on the previous one so that nothing gets overlooked and so that we can move from the big picture to the details without losing track of things. I'm Sven, I'm an entrepreneur, and I've been involved with quality and process optimization for over 30 years, not just professionally, but in all areas of life. I've learned a lot through trial and error, and I know what really works. Today, I have a group of companies with several software firms, and in my videos, I want to show you how you can successfully use automation and AI in your business. So let's get started. As I already mentioned here in the background, we have the scenario. It's relatively short with these 6 individual modules, and the whole thing is based on an Airtable. And this Airtable is also set up in a pretty simple way. We can see it here. We have a tab here called tone of voice. And then up here at the front, I have various names. And as you can already see here, I have things like articles. I have my book in which I wrote a chapter that has 2 different perspectives, a white paper, LinkedIn articles. I write a column or even a newsletter. And each of these types of text has different stylistic devices, and sometimes I write in a more casual tone, sometimes more serious. That always depends a lot on the topic, and that's why I have different elements here. And now here in this cell in the sample text, I have pasted in a text from my newsletter that I write on LinkedIn. And now I want to have this text analyzed. And I do that by running this scenario. And I'd like to briefly show you how the scenario works. So we start with a webhook, which I then trigger from Airtable. There's nothing special to mention about that. That's simply the webhook that I generate as a URL here and then trigger via Airtable. I'll show you in a moment how that works there. Then through this start, we receive the row in Airtable. So we read out this entry there. And then all we do is pass this text to the high-level analyzer. And here you can see there's no prompt at all because, as usual, I use assistants for that. And we'll take a look at those in a moment. So I'm just passing this text here to this assistant. For the second one, at the medium level, I'm passing not only the text, but also the result of the high-level analysis. That's why here, this is the text I'm passing. And then here's the result from the top-level analysis. And finally, at the detail level, I do the same thing again. I pass on the text and then the results from the medium level analysis. And in the end, all I do is write the result into this table, specifically into a single continuous field. And later, when I'm writing articles, I can simply include that in my prompt. So what do these assistants look like? I've already opened it here in the background. I've already covered why I prefer working with assistants instead of direct prompts in a previous video. You can check that out here via the link. I think I've already given some pretty significant reasons for why I do it this way. And now here we have the analyzer top level, so level 1. And yes, the prompts are actually quite extensive, but they're always structured the same way. First, I assign it a role. Then I say, what are you getting? Namely, this text. And then I describe the task here, what needs to be done, right? And that the text is supposed to be analyzed. And then I specify the categories that are to be analyzed. So first of all, the general tone and mood, then the target audience and the purpose of the text, the coherence and cohesion of the text, then the stylistic features present, the overall structure, like how the text is organized, and last but not least, how vivid the language actually is. And all of this is always defined more precisely with analysis, instructions, and example. And I do this the same way on all 3 levels. The only difference is that in these other systems, we always include the text and the results from the previous analysis. Otherwise, the structure is always the same at the bottom again, a task description, and then logically different headings for the medium levels, such as sentence structure, length, rhetorical devices, paragraph structure, implementation style, quantification of words, and things like that. And at the detail level, it's then the detailed topics now at the detail level, analysis and results from the medium analysis, and again, a task description, vocabulary, word choice, grammatical patterns used, punctuation. And here again, quantification, for example, regarding technical terms. And last but not least, any focused element. Yes. And on this basis, we then carry out the analysis. That means if I simply let this scenario run now, the webhook is waiting to be triggered. And I do that here with this analyze button. I'll just quickly show that here in the column. This is a button column, and the webhook is in here. And then the respective row is passed along via the parameter record ID. That means if I click on analyze here, this exact webhook is triggered and the respective row is passed into the scenario. So as we can see here in Airtable, this example text is already present here, and it is then passed to this analyzer high level, which now carries out the analysis. What do we see here as a result in the output? Namely, exactly these categories: tone and mood, target audience. I'll make it a bit bigger. Target audience, coherence, stylistic features, overarching structure, figurative language. And I then pass this on to the medium level as well. So we can also see this here in the input under the message text for analysis. And down here, I'll make it a bit bigger again. And down here, it says end of text for analysis, and then result from top level analysis. And in the third step, which is already running right now, it continues in exactly the same way. And it then gives me a result again, which I then enter into Airtable. So, and in this Airtable, we just need to take a quick look here. The text is already in there. If I open it here, now we can see the complete package, tone, mood, target audience, and so on and so forth. That means here we now have all these headings and elements, and as you can see, it's quite extensive. So how do I use this now? Well, for example, I have a tab here called blog, where I write blog posts. And if I have a text here that should be written in the style of the newsletter, then I can simply click here in this tone of voices column, and all the elements will be displayed. For example, I can select newsletter here. And in my scenario where I'm using this now, I've opened it here as well. So for example, an article is written here, and then the get tone of voice process takes place. And when I write a section of an article here, as we'll see in a moment, when it opens up, it receives the outline, the text, the headline, the content, and instructions for tone and style. That means I actually provide that information here, and it is then processed accordingly so that your text is written in your chosen style. I hope this helps you move forward and also supports you with your own texts that you write or with the scenarios you create. If you have any further questions about this, just feel free to reach out to me at any time. You'll find the link below in the description. And otherwise, I wish you lots of fun with it and see you next time. Bye.